The year 2026 didn't start with fireworks for me. It started with a knock on my apartment door. That alone wouldn't sound terrifying, except it happened at 12:04 a.m. on January 1st, and I live alone on the 14th floor of a building where no one ever visits anyone after midnight. I remember the exact time because I was watching the countdown on my phone, sitting on my couch, half drunk and half asleep, trying to convince myself that this year would finally be different. The knock wasn't loud. It was slow. 3 soft taps. Tap. 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 At first, I thought it was part of the celebration, maybe someone in the hallway, drunk, confused, at the wrong door. I didn't move. I waited. Then it happened again. Tap. 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 Same rhythm. Same pressure. Like whoever it was had practiced it. I checked the peephole. Nothing. Just the dim yellow hallway light and the patterned carpet stretching out in both directions. No movement. No shadow. No sound. I told myself I was imagining things. Then my phone vibrated. A text message from an unknown number. You're supposed to open the door when the year changes. My heart dropped so fast I felt dizzy. I hadn't posted online. I hadn't told anyone I was home. I hadn't even spoken to anyone that night. The knock came again, this time harder. Tap. 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 I backed away from the door. Another message came through. We always knock 3 times. That's when I noticed something that still makes my hand shake when I think about it. My door handle was moving. Not rattling. Not being forced. Just slowly turning, like someone testing it gently, patiently. I locked myself in the bathroom and sat on the floor, staring at the door. I called the police, whispering like the person outside could hear me through the walls. They told me officers were on the way. The knocking stopped. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. The police finally arrived and checked the hallway. Nothing. No one. No cameras on my floor, apparently they'd been temporarily offline due to maintenance. The officers left. They told me to try to get some sleep. I didn't. At 3:17 a.m., my phone vibrated again. Same unknown number. You failed the first test. I blocked the number. At 3:18, another message arrived, from a different number. Blocking doesn't reset the game. That's when I realized something was wrong with my apartment. The bathroom mirror had fogged up. I hadn't showered. The water hadn't been running. Written into the fog, slowly dripping downward, was a single sentence. Next year, open the door. I didn't stay in that apartment long after that. But here's the part one never tell people in real life. On December 31st, 2026, almost a year later, I was staying at my sister's house, miles away. At exactly 11:59 p.m., her doorbell rang. 3 slow chimes. When we checked the camera footage the next morning, there was no one there. But the audio picked something up. A voice, quiet, calm, and smiling, whispering directly into the microphone. We knock for everyone. Some people just don't survive the new year. Everyone else welcomed 2026 with fireworks. I welcomed it with silence. I live in a small rural town where New Year's Eve is usually loud, distant pops echoing through the hills, drunk laughter from nearby houses, dogs barking at the noise. But that night, it was unnaturally quiet. No fireworks. No music. No voices. Just wind. I was home alone. My parents had gone to my aunt's place 2 states away, and my friends were all at a party downtown. I stayed behind because I had work early the next morning and didn't feel like celebrating another year that already felt cursed. At 11:58 p.m., the power went out. No warning. No flicker. Just darkness. My phone still worked, but there was no signal. No data. No calls. Just the glowing screen and the time ticking closer to midnight. 11:59. That's when I heard footsteps outside. Slow. Crunching through the snow. At first, I thought it was one of the neighbors walking their dog. But the steps didn't pass by my house. They stopped. Right outside my front door. I stayed still, barely breathing. Then came the sound that made my skin crawl. Someone dragged their fingernails across the wood of the door. Not scratching wildly. Slowly. Like they were tracing it. I grabbed the kitchen knife and moved closer, every instinct screaming at me not to look. But I did anyway. Through the peephole, I saw nothing. No shadow. No movement. Then my phone buzzed. A message, no number, no contact name. You're early. My heart slammed against my ribs. I typed back without thinking. Who is this? The reply came instantly. You're supposed to hear the fireworks first. That's when I realized something horrifying. There were no fireworks. Not a single one. At exactly 12 a.m., my phone changed to January 1st, 2026. And something knocked. Not on the door. On my window. My bedroom window is on the second floor. I turned slowly. The curtains moved. Not from wind. From the outside. A shape pressed against the glass, tall, hunched, its outline wrong, like its joints bent the wrong way. Its head tilted unnaturally, resting against the window. I couldn't see its face. But I could hear it breathing. Fog spread across the glass, and words began to form, drawn slowly by a finger from the outside. You're late. I backed away, tripped over the couch, and slammed into the wall. My phone vibrated again. We give everyone 1 year. The thing at the window began tapping. Once. Twice. 3 times. Each tap perfectly synced with my heartbeat. Then it disappeared. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. I sat on the kitchen floor until morning, clutching the knife until my hand went numb. When the sun finally came up, the power returned. Everything looked normal. Too normal. I told myself I imagined it. Until I checked my phone. There was a calendar reminder set for December 31st, 2026. I didn't make it. The reminder title said, "Don't hide next time." I deleted it. Blocked everything. Changed my number. Moved out 3 months later. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. Last New Year's Eve, I was driving home from work around 11:50 p.m. The road was empty, snow falling hard, radio static filled. Then the station cut out completely. A voice replaced it. Calm. Familiar. Everyone hears fireworks. Unless it's their turn. My car stalled. The clock on the dashboard flipped to 12 o'clock. And outside, in the middle of the road, someone stood waiting. Tall. Still. Smiling. I floored the gas when the engine came back, didn't look in the rearview mirror, and didn't stop driving until the sun came up. It's almost New Year's again. And tonight, I hear fireworks. I hear them clearly. Which terrifies me more than silence ever did. Because I don't know who they're celebrating for. I used to believe that if you survived the worst year of your life, the next one had to be better. I was wrong. 2025 was the worst year I'd ever lived through. I lost my job, my relationship ended, and my mental health slowly unraveled in ways I didn't understand until much later. So when December came around, I didn't feel excited for the new year, I felt desperate. I wanted 2026 to erase everything. On December 31st, I stayed home alone in my apartment. No parties. No countdown live streams. No distractions. Just me, a cheap bottle of soda, and the TV playing muted footage of celebrations in cities far away. At 11:30 p.m., my upstairs neighbor started moving furniture. Dragging sounds. Heavy thuds. Over and over again. I almost texted him to complain, but something stopped me. The noises weren't random. They followed a pattern: 3 drags, pause, 1 loud drop. 3. Pause. 1. Again. I checked the time. 11:43 p.m. The noises stopped. Relief washed over me until I realized something worse. My upstairs neighbor moved out 2 weeks earlier. I stood in the middle of my living room, staring at the ceiling, listening. Nothing. Then my smoke detector chirped once. Not the low battery chirp. A sharp, deliberate beep. My phone buzzed at the same moment. A notification from an app one didn't recognize. No icon. No name. Just a message. This year isn't yours. My heart pounded as I deleted it. The app vanished instantly, like it had never existed. The TV turned itself off. Every light in the apartment flickered. And the dragging started again, this time inside my walls. It sounded like something large being pulled through narrow spaces, scraping against metal and drywall. I pressed my ear against the wall. I heard breathing. Slow. Patient. Right on the other side. I grabbed my keys and jacket. I didn't care where I went, I just needed to leave. But when I opened my front door, the hallway lights were out. At the far end of the hall, near the stairwell, someone stood facing the wall. Tall. Too thin. Their back was to me. "Hey," I said, my voice shaking. "Are you okay?" They didn't turn around. Instead, they spoke, quietly, clearly. "You weren't supposed to make it this far." The hallway lights snapped on. The person was gone. But carved into the paint on the wall, deep enough to expose concrete, were the numbers. 2026. I left. I didn't lock the door. I ran down the stairs and out into the freezing night. Fireworks exploded in the distance as midnight hit. Everyone else was celebrating. I was crying in the parking lot, shaking, convinced I was finally losing my mind. Nothing followed me. Nothing chased me. That was the worst part. Because over the next year, strange things kept happening, but never enough to prove anything. Clock stopping at random times. Mirrors reflecting movement that wasn't there. Voicemails with static and breathing, but no caller ID. Every time I tried to tell someone, nothing happened again for weeks, months sometimes, like whatever it was wanted me to doubt myself. Until December came back around. This time, I prepared. I stayed with friends. I left the state. I kept lights on, noise playing, people around me. At 11:59 p.m. on December 31st, 2026, I was sitting in a crowded living room counting down with everyone else. 10. 9. 8. I started to relax. 7. 6. Then my phone vibrated. One message. No sender. You can't outrun a calendar. 5. 4. The lights went out. The entire house went silent. 3. 2. Everyone froze. 1. The TVs turned on by themselves. Every screen showed the same thing. My apartment. From inside. A live feed. Something moved past the camera, tall, hunched, dragging its limbs like they barely worked. Then it looked directly into the lens. And smiled. The screen cut to black. The lights came back on. Everyone started shouting, panicking, demanding explanations. No one else had seen the message. No one else remembered the footage clearly. They said it must have been a prank. A glitch. I didn't argue. Because I knew. I moved again after that. New city. New number. New name. But last night, I found something taped to my door. A calendar page. January 1st. And written at the bottom in shaky handwriting. You can stop running now. I don't celebrate New Year's anymore. I don't make plans. I don't look forward. Because something out there is counting for me. And eventually, it's going to reach 0. I've never been able to explain what happened that night without sounding insane. So I usually don't try. But if you're listening to this, maybe you'll understand why I still refuse to sleep with the lights off, and why I panic whenever a room goes completely silent. This happened at the very end of 2025, just a few hours before the new year. I was alone. That part matters. My parents were out of town visiting relatives. My friends were all busy with their own New Year's plans. I had just turned 21 and decided to stay home, order food, and let the year end quietly. No party. No countdown. No noise. Just me, my house, and the sound of wind outside. At around 10:40 p.m., I noticed something felt off. Not scary. Just wrong. The house felt too still. No creaking. No distant cars. No pipes knocking in the walls. It was the kind of silence you only notice when you're suddenly aware of your own breathing. I paused my TV and listened. Nothing. Not even the hum of electricity. I checked my phone. Full signal. Wi-Fi still connected. Everything seemed normal, but my gut kept tightening like it knew something my brain didn't yet understand. At 10:47 p.m., the lights flickered once. Just a blink. Then everything went dark. Total blackout. I sighed, annoyed more than scared, and reached for my phone's flashlight. As soon as I turned it on, I noticed something strange. The beam felt wrong. It wasn't illuminating the room properly. The light looked weak, dull, like it was being absorbed instead of reflected. That's when I heard it. A sound coming from upstairs. Not footsteps. Not creaking. It sounded like something being dragged very slowly across the floor. I froze at the bottom of the stairs. The sound stopped. I waited. Then it started again. One slow scrape. Then another. Like someone moving furniture inch by inch. I called out, "Hello." My voice sounded wrong too, muffled, like it didn't fully exist in the room. No response. I told myself it was the house settling. Old houses make noise. Everyone knows that. But then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The sound wasn't coming from any specific room. It was coming from everywhere. Above me. Beside me. Behind the walls. Like the entire house was shifting. I backed away from the stairs and nearly tripped over the couch. That's when everything stopped. The scraping. The wind. Even the faint ringing in my ears. Absolute silence. And then, every clock in the house started ticking at the exact same time. Loud. Too loud. The wall clock. The microwave. My wristwatch. All ticking in perfect synchronization. I stared at the wall clock. The time read 11:11 p.m. The second hand wasn't moving. None of them were. The ticking wasn't coming from motion, it was coming from sound alone. Like the idea of time was still there, but time itself had stopped. My phone vibrated. A notification. No signal bars. No Wi-Fi icon. Just one message. From an unknown sender. Don't move. I laughed nervously and whispered, "Not funny." Another vibration. "We can tell when you move." My heart started pounding so hard I felt dizzy. I hadn't told anyone where I was. No one should have been able to see me. I slowly turned in place, scanning the room with my flashlight. That's when I noticed it. The shadows weren't behaving normally. They were leaning. All of them, stretching toward me from the corners of the room, bending inward like fingers. I took one step back. My phone buzzed instantly. We said don't. My mouth went dry. We? I whispered. The ticking grew louder. I felt pressure in my ears, like I was underwater. Then something moved in the kitchen. Not walked. Not crawled. It shifted. Like a shape sliding through space instead of occupying it. I couldn't see it directly, only the way the darkness bent around where it passed. The flashlight flickered. I backed into the wall, heart hammering. The phone buzzed again. You weren't supposed to notice. That's when I realized something horrifying. I hadn't blinked in a long time. I tried to force my eyes closed, and couldn't. My body wouldn't respond. I was still breathing. Still standing. Still aware. But I wasn't fully in control anymore. The thing in the kitchen moved closer. The air grew heavy, thick, like syrup. And then it spoke. Not with a mouth. With pressure. With thought. With presence. You are between minutes. I felt tears roll down my face without permission. What does that mean? I whispered. The shadows leaned closer. The year is ending, it said. But you didn't leave with it. My phone buzzed one final time. Some people slip. The ticking stopped. Every clock snapped forward at once. 12 a.m. New Year's Eve. The lights came back on. Sound rushed into the house all at once, wind, distant fireworks, the hum of electricity. I collapsed to the floor, gasping. Everything looked normal again. Too normal. I stayed there for hours until morning came. No messages. No shadows. No sounds. I convinced myself it was stress. Fatigue. My imagination. Until a week later. I checked my phone system logs. There was an outgoing message sent at exactly 11:11 p.m. I don't remember sending it. It had no recipient listed. Just one line of text. He can see us now. Ever since that night, something has felt wrong. Mirrors lag for half a second. Rooms feel crowded when I'm alone. Sometimes clocks tick even when they're unplugged. And every year, at exactly 11:11 p.m. on December 31st, my phone vibrates. No notification. No message. Just vibration. Like a reminder. Like something counting.